We were 14 when we started going out. Me and my friend Cassia had started a beach clean at the weekend, and Ogden turned up with his mate Godfrey. I had no idea Ogden liked me. He was the tallest in our year, and we all fancied him. By the time we reached the little cove at the north end of the beach, he'd asked me to come to a concert he was playing in. I said yes. We'd been going out for a few years when I applied to Floristry College on the mainland. I didn't tell Ogden. I didn't believe I'd get in, and didn't want him to think I was trying to get away from him. Ogden might have looked mature and confident, but he was a gentle soul, not nearly as sure of himself as he looked. But I did get in, and he was gutted. I felt terrible. I didn't want to hurt Ogden. He said he didn't mind, but I could see he was covering. My last week on Shelmerston was really hard. Every time I saw him, it felt so strained, and I couldn't sleep. Finally, on my last night, I made a decision. I would take an apprenticeship at the garden centre on the island instead, so we could stay together. It felt like the right thing to do. I would tell Ogden in the morning. But when I opened the door the next day, I found Ogden's sousaphone left on the doorstep. I was terrified. What did it mean? What had he done? I ran down to his house, my heart in my mouth. His mum, she never did like me, was a little bit smug. She told me Ogden had sailed off to New Zealand. He was headed to Christchurch, she said, and didn't know when he was coming back. Then she shut the door. I was more than a bit tearful, but, looking back, I think we both needed to have a bit of an adventure.
I spent a lot of time with Sally during this period. We used to meet up quite often when she returned from Floristry College and I was working at the museum. For a while I thought maybe we would get together. But she always seemed a bit out of reach. Sort of distracted. Well, it makes sense now.
I remember when a young Ogden asked to join the Shelmerston Silver Band. I recognised his talent immediately. He could play anything, that lad. Literally anything. Eventually he settled on the sousaphone, which he always insisted on playing with his lucky bronze mouthpiece. One evening after the Silver Band played a storming concert in the Camel, Ogden and Sally got it into their heads to go for a night swim in the harbour, young love and all that. Ogden left his mouthpiece behind, and when we came back the next morning to pack up, it had disappeared. It really rattled him. Ogden was worried he wouldn't be able to perform without it, but of course, next time we played, he was just as good as ever. Didn't need any lucky mouthpiece, our Ogden. He could play anything, that lad.
Ogden was so talented. A real virtuoso. Oh, I loved listening to him play.
Ugh, speak for yourself, Morris. It was a terrible racket. They seem to have been using it as a funnel. These bootleggers are very resourceful. I'm getting the scent of Grenkins again, Morris. I'll pop up to let you know when we're close to one.
It was the day of the island cricket match out on the volcanic sandspit. We had lost to Appledore for the past 3 years and it was my first year as captain. I didn't want another loss on my watch. Ogden had just come back from New Zealand and told me he'd be up for it. I wasn't sure. I remembered Ogden from school. He was lanky and good in the field, but batting... not sure. Ogden showed up with his own bat. He told me he'd won it in a pub in Dunedin and that it had belonged to a famous New Zealand player. I wondered whether I should put him into bat at all, but Ogden whispered to me that he'd been playing on deck all the way home. I knew Ogden wasn't a bluffer, but he was never the guy who got picked for the first team at school. Still, I had nothing to lose. Ogden hit a 6 with his first stroke. We went wild! And just when I thought it must be a fluke, he hit another! And another! He was a machine! Ogden hit so many cricket balls out into the sea that we had to stop play. We'd run out. It was a stunning win, and we carried Ogden back across the sand and into the Camel. Even though he'd won the match pretty much single-handedly, he insisted it was all down to the bat and plenty of practice. Ogden was solid gold.
How's that? What a great day that was. And we've beaten Appledore every year since. Those poor chaps never did recover from Ogden's incredible batting.
Hey, Morris, remember when we found one of these heavy balls on the beach and I dropped it on your toe? did that get in there?
I remember we was walking home from school, a bunch of us, and I told him my grandad said the lad had a live Bactrian camel living somewhere in the woods. Everyone laughed, but I told them it was true. Ogden didn't believe me. Someone would have seen it. He dared me to climb in and prove it. I told him he'd have to come with me. Sneaking past the big house, we were almost caught by the gamekeeper and had to run, hell for leather, for the woods. We reached the trees out of breath. I was bent double and leant against a tree. Ogden had better breath control and he recovered quickly. He saw it first. The clouds parted, the moon shone down, and Ogden gasped. And then I did too. Was it? It was. The next day, we were kicking ourselves. We had no proof. No one was going to believe us. But we knew what we saw.
Oh, yeah, he was a couple of years above these chaps at school. Oh, and he's right. No one believed them. We gave them so much stick.
Camels are so obviously a made-up animal. Humans will believe any old rubbish.
I missed Ogden so much, and for the first month there was no letter at all. I took my place at college on the mainland without knowing how he was feeling. It was a shock how low it made me, even though I was working with flowers, my dream job. I threw myself into making friends and working as hard as I could. I wondered about him travelling the world without me and without his sousaphone, what he was doing, how he was feeling. Then the letters started arriving, and it was amazing. Each one came with a penny from a different country. One from Valparaiso, another from Dakar. I wrote back and told Ogden about my course, trips to Kew Gardens, which were amazing. And Ogden told me about his voyage, watching dolphins and flying fish, crossing the equator. Sometimes we were both lonely. We poured out our hearts to each other. In a funny way, I think the letters made us closer than ever. When he arrived in Christchurch, he'd send me flowers pressed in his letters. I sent him a shell from home, and then he sent me a New Zealand halfpenny. It was my favourite. On one side was the head of a Maori tiki. Ogden told me it was lucky. I came back to the island, and when my father died, I opened up my own florist shop on the quay. I tucked the halfpenny under the front step for luck, polished up Ogden's sousaphone and put it in the window. They both brought me luck, and the shop flourished. One day, Ogden showed up at the shop, completely out of the blue. He told me there was nowhere like Shelmerston, and no one like me. I was so thrilled to see him, I asked him to marry me there and then. He said yes.
The lure of Shelmerston. It always pulls people back when they try to move away. They were a lovely couple, Sally and Ogden.
I missed Ogden so much, and for the first month...
Yet one good thing about being dead, I'll never have to deal with counting change again.
Ah, yes. A very distinctive odour indeed. I reckon I can find him from this. Here I come, Ogden.
Oh, this feels so good. Terrific to see you, Morris.
Oh, it's great to see you too, mate.
Have a stretch, Ogden. We have a question for you.
Sparky, owner of the very finest singing voice on the island. What can I do for you?
Well, it's about the custodian. We need a replacement.
Ah, yes. I've heard that volcano rumbling. Poor Aggie must be very tired.
Yes, she is. We need a replacement.
Oh, you want me to be the custodian? Well, I'm honored, but I can't.
Are you sure? The island is in dire need.
I know, and I sympathize, but Sally is the other half of me. I need to watch over her. Everything else may be changing, but she's my constant, and I'm hers. I need to go into the West with her when it's her time.
Yes, I understand. You two always did have an enviable connection.
We were very lucky to find each other. And I'm still lucky just to watch over her. Makes this place still feel a bit like home, even as it changes. So I'm going to stay. But listen, once you've found the custodian, come back and enjoy a sniff of that beer in the Camel with me, eh?
Sure, Ogden. Well, see you around. Well, after all these years, Ogden still carries that torch for Sally. I wish I'd been so lucky. Things I should have done.
You were busy with the museum, Morris. And you did walks, and you did fetch and belly rubs and...
Yeah, all right, yes. I was very busy. Thank you for reminding me.
You did plenty. But now you need to find the next custodian.
Hey, how long has Aggie been custodian?
Oh, a little while now. You've met her, actually.
I have?
Well, her body, anyway. In the museum.
What? Her body? In the museum? Oh, wait!
That's right, Morris.
The Bog Lady. The Bog Lady of Shelmerston. Well, that's Aggie?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's her body anyway. Her spirit is all around us, of course.
But Aggie is Bronze Age. 3,000 years. She's been custodian all that time?
Yep.
Wow. No wonder she's tired.
More tired every minute. We need to get to the next prospect. Greg Litherland, at the campsite.
Greg. Okay. The one part of the island I never spent much time at. I never cared for camping. Although we did find a lot of Bronze Age goods down here. Really fascinating bits and bobs. I reckon this was an important place once. And not just to shellers.
Oh, there's so many great smells here. Oh, and so many rabbits to chase. Stop it, Sparky, you have a job to do.
You know, I suppose I do like it better up here now I don't have to worry about combing all those burrs out of your fur. At least this part of Shelmerston isn't changing too much.
Yes. Now let's sniff out Greg.
Yeah, I always found Greg a bit difficult. That business with the owl of his.
He wasn't a bad guy at heart. Just liked animals a bit more than people, sometimes. Maybe. But who can blame him? Let's find some people who remembered him. Dig a little deeper.
Memories of Greg Litherland. Here we come.
I only knew Greg briefly, from the summer that I took over the campsite and he retired. He seemed harmless enough, if a bit strange, living in that nasty little caravan. As part of his official handover process, he gave me a big box of rule books that I was apparently supposed to give every camper when they arrived. I couldn't believe them. The amount of inches apart each tent had to be, the angle of pitch, permitted colours of guy ropes. No skipping ropes, marbles, conkers or throwing games. No singing with hand drums. I built a huge fire on the beach, invited the whole site for a big party and burned the lot. But then, awkward, Greg showed up. I guess he'd been collecting some things from his caravan and came to see what the noise was all about. You could tell he wasn't comfortable, but he sat down and tried to make conversation. I told him how beautiful I thought Shelmerston was, and he started telling me all about the wildlife here and the best places to spot birds. He was actually quite a sweet guy. He must have noticed what we were burning, but he never mentioned it. That was the last time I saw him. I always felt a bit guilty. I mean, I got him wrong. He wasn't that bad.
Well, it's a good thing she kept one of them. It must be around here somewhere.
What's this about dogs having to be on leads the whole time? Outrageous. I'm getting the scent of Grenkins again, Morris. I'll pop up to let you know when we're close to one.
Miles and I came to Shelmerston for the Sheller Cup final. Miles was the world champion for ages. Greg, the campsite manager, was a huge Sheller fan. Always gave us the best pitch on the campsite. Miles was up early every morning, training for the big race. Greg would always be lurking in the background, taking photos. It became rather annoying. How many photos did he need? Oh God, and one time he turned up at our barbecue and wouldn't leave. The man could not take a hint. So, race day arrives and Greg is there with his camera, of course, getting in everyone's way. So Greg leans out into the track as the pack came past, Miles in the lead. And Miles goes crashing right into Greg. Total disaster. Miles goes down and Kwasi flies past him to win the race. Miles was absolutely gutted. He definitely would have won it. Later that night, all us Shellers were on our way back from the pub and we heard Greg outside his caravan, just sat by himself, crying. Miles, he was such a good sport, went over and spoke to him, invited him over to our camp for a drink. So then Greg came back and hung out with us, brought his camera and showed us all his Sheller race photos. You know, that guy was actually a pretty great photographer. By the end of the night, Miles had forgiven him. Miles was good like that.
Shellers? I've never understood the appeal of that. Seems bloomin' uncomfortable to me. Poor old Greg. He was always rubbing people up the wrong way, but he meant well. And he really loved this place.
Oh, I wish we could use this! I am a very photogenic dog, you know.
I love camping. We've come to Shelmerston every summer with the kids for years. OK, our tent is a bit bright, but that means the kids can always see it. Greg seemed angry about everything this year. He told us our tent was outside of the regulation colours, and being around the kids seemed to really upset him. But they were only being kids, just running around playing. Greg was blowing that bloody whistle every 5 minutes. One day, Greg confiscated my little one's kite. He was terrifying. We still sometimes get nightmares about it. I had to do something. When I saw Greg put the whistle down, I pinched it and took out the pea. You know, the thing that makes the noise. I threw that pea somewhere Greg would never find it. You should have seen his face when he blew his whistle and nothing happened.
I always wondered how Greg managed to get so good at hand whistling.
I love camping. I love camping. We've come to...
smell of rabbit poo. It doesn't excite me the way it used to when I was alive.
My whole life I've dreamed of seeing a Jempson's sea owl. One day, I read the news that a guy on this little island called Shelmerson had discovered one. I had to see it. The only B&B on the island booked up really fast, so I decided to stay at the temporary campsite set up by the guy who discovered the sea owl, Greg Litherland. The atmosphere was amazing. There were twitchers from all over the world come to see it. Greg had given the owl a name, David Abrahams. A bit weird, but I guess he was the one who found it. And because it had no mate, it was lonely, and he'd made a model female owl out of concrete. That was quite impressive. I got to know Greg a bit during my stay. He really seemed to resent all the noise and fuss on the island. His island, as he thought of it. And the irony was that he was the one who'd got everyone excited about coming to Shelmerston. Greg told us he'd take us up in groups to the owl's nest site, but I snuck up early with my camera. It saw me and it flew off hooting and I didn't get a picture. I was gutted. I had to make do with a picture of the model. It wasn't the same.
I remember that. All those bird watchers suddenly arriving and nowhere for them to stay. I didn't think Greg had it in him to start a campsite, but he somehow pulled it together.
Poor old David Abrahams.
My best thing is throwing discs. I am really good. I like playing with Dan and Toddler. It's our favourite thing when we go camping on Shelmerston. One time, Greg Niflheim came up the beach, all red-faced like an angry tomato. He pointed at a sign. It said, "No throwing games." He was yelling and shouting at us. He told me to give him my disc, but I wouldn't. I threw it high up into the air, and it went bang into a massive bird. Then the bird fell into the sea. I felt so awful. I never meant to hurt the birds. The whole thing was terrible. Mr. Niflheim was screaming. He waded into the sea, picked up that bird, and carried it back to the beach. He was crying and crying. I'm sorry, Mr. Niflheim.
Oh, Greg. Poor guy. Oh, and that poor bird. I guess that explains why he was always so prickly.
My best thing is throwing discs.
Things. Reminds me of our walks on the beach. Woof! Okay, I've got his scent. It was quite faint, but I'm a very good dog. Let's go find him.
Greg! Oh, hello!
Morris, what are you doing here? Oh, hello there, pup.
Hi, Greg.
You can talk now. Rather prefer my animals when they don't talk.
Yeah, Greg, we need to ask you, would you be interested in being the next island custodian? It's a very important job.
Oh, no, absolutely not. This is your mess, and you can sort it out.
My mess? How do you mean?
You dug her up. I warned you, and I warned you when we were still alive that those archaeological digs were a bad idea. And now we know exactly how bad.
Well, now hold on, Greg. That's not how that works.
Oh, isn't it, talking dog? 3,000 years, no eruptions. You dig Aggie up, and then suddenly her grip on the island is weakening. Well, some coincidence that sounds like.
But I didn't. I never did.
No. There's no way I'm doing that job. It's too much obligation, it's not my responsibility, and frankly, One lifetime of humans was plenty for me. Now I'm going to stay right here until I can find David Abrams.
Fine. Thanks, Greg. See ya, I suppose.
Thanks, Greg.
It's not looking good, is it, old girl?
Don't worry, Morris. I hate it when you worry. It makes me nervous.
He's waiting for David Abrams. I guess I'm like him in that way. The most important person in my life wasn't technically a person, more like an island.
Yes, the island. This island. A whole island's worth of people and stories. Not like Greg at all. Everyone loves you.
Really? Well, loved me, perhaps, past tense.
No, they still do. And there's one more person who loves you we need to talk to. Our last prospect. I just know we're getting close now.
Hey, Sparky, how do you know all this stuff? I mean, you're just my dog, aren't you?
Well, nobody is just anything, Morris. I'm mostly the dog you raised, but I'm also kind of a messenger, a scout, part of something bigger. Aggie sent me to help guide you.
Aggie sent you?
No time to explain, Morris. We have to get to the last prospect.
Well, however it came to be, I'm glad I get to spend more time with you, old friend.
So am I, Morris. Now, off to see Samfire down at the harbour.
Ah, Sam. Yeah, lead the way, girl. Ah, the harbour. I always loved watching the boats come in and out. Never did get around to expanding the fishing exhibit, did I? You remember coming down here with me?
I'd have liked it better if you'd have let me swim.
I love your confidence, Sparky. But you always thought yourself a bigger dog than you actually were.
Oh. Lots more boats than there used to be, though, aren't there?
Certainly are. Shelmerston got busy. Though this is busier than even I remember. Say, how long have we been doing this search?
Oh, I don't know, Morris. Once you're dead, time seems to be a bit less important.
Does it? Oh, I don't know. I suppose it seems a bit galling that time and everything else keeps moving even though I've stopped. Makes a man feel unimportant.
Oh, you're not unimportant, Morris. You're saving the island. And to do that, we better go find some people who remember Samfire.
Yes, Sam surely understands the feeling of watching everything change. Fishfolk live for, what, 200 years? That's no small amount of change.
Not volcano change, though, Morris. And that's what we need to avoid. Off we go!